It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at U-Like, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ulike.com. U-Like. With Ease US, make studio-quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high-quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional-grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Just use AMP-Pace.
AMP-Pace.
It is the Pete Sousa Show. We are live in the Alico building in Central Texas on what looks to be another rainy day here. Cloud covered, windy, a lot of rain over the past few days, and no complaints here to the folks for the folks in Central Texas. Everybody, we need the rain because we're about to go 3 months without it, right? And a lot of sunshine, which I don't mind, but I'm always, when I used to work at KWTX, the news channel here, I'd be like, man, I don't, I'm from the Northeast, or like early on, I'd be like, yeah, who cares? I don't, rain. I don't like rain. I like to go outside and run. And they're like, well, the farmers need the rain. I was like, damn it, that's right. So I took a little heat for that. But the Pete Sousa Show, presented by Savachix, of course, Crawford Austin Properties. We are in the wake of a seismic event last night in the NBA. I was watching the Knicks and the Celtics. Of course, by the way, we can't forget our good friends at Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. and our good friends at Socorro Family Ford. But last night I was watching. I was getting ready for the Big 12 tournament. By the way, real quick play-by-play tip for anybody. I'm not here perpetrating like I'm Bob Costas or Kevin Harlan or Brent Musburger or Jim Nance. Like, I'm just like you guys. I love doing play-by-play. I've got some experience at it. I do it for a living. And I've learned from the other great ones. I used to spot and do talent stats for the great Matt Devlin and Roy Philpott. I've worked with Kevin Kugler. Let me drop some names. Kugler. Who else? Jason Benetti. Benetti and Kugler never asked me back, so clearly I didn't do that well with them, but this is like 10 years ago. But the one thing I can tell you from preparing, I start the Big 12 softball tournament tomorrow for ESPN, doing it live from Oklahoma City. It's pitch 2:30, Baylor and BYU tomorrow. I'm so pumped. And the reason I'm speaking with like some extra excitement today is because I've been busting my ass getting prepared. And we talked to coaches yesterday, and I was working late last night and this morning, just prepping on notes. And I'm to the point now where I can't wait for the tournament to start, right? It's so much fun. And to be able to call those games from Oklahoma City, the softball capital of the world, one of my favorite things to be able to do. It's a privilege. But getting ready, these pens, for any early on play-by-players, these multicolored pens, they are like gold. They're like a golden ticket because when you're jotting stuff down, especially when you're talking to a coach, and if you want to be able to take your notes, and, you know, as you talk to a coach or as you gather information, a lot of times you're doing it rather quickly because you're talking to somebody and sure, you're recording it, but, you know, to be able to put it on paper right away is great. And to be able to switch topics and switch colors is like the biggest thing for me. And then when I'm filling out my boards for different if I'm talking about RBIs, I'll do red. If I'm talking about home runs, I'll do black. Strikeouts are green. It really helps me when I'm calling the game and I glance down at my boards that things are just different. Not only, I mean, you can color code it however the heck you want, but just the fact that they stick out is huge. And, of course, you break out the highlighter. So if you can't tell, I'm pumped. But I was getting ready for the Big 12 tournament last night using my multicolored pen. And I couldn't help but to start to pay attention. Now, there was a point, I've watched a lot of basketball, especially this time of year, right? The NBA playoffs, they're really starting to take flight. And I was thinking last night, you know, this is a Celtics team that won the championship last year. They were in the finals 2 years before that. And I was thinking, they're gonna sweep the Knicks. Like, oh my gosh, like. And then I just watched Celtic City. So I'm thinking like, well, now I got Cam Stewart coming on tomorrow. And we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. Cam's going to join us in segment 3. And I was like, are we going to be talking about maybe the Celtics being one of the epic teams, right? Like climbing their way into NBA history. Like they're up by 20 at home against the Knicks. The Knicks go down 1-0. They'll have no chance, right, to come back and to possibly win this series. And so now I'm one, sticking a fork in the Celtics, and two, or sticking a fork in the Knicks, and two, taking the Celtics and putting them on my Mount Rushmore of NBA basketball's greatest teams. And then Jalen Brunson happens. I really am surprised. Look, again, I've said it ad nauseum. There's another one of my Villanova guys. I'm a Villanova dude, right? Tried and true. Family affair, right? Mom worked at Villanova. Brothers went there. I grew up going to basketball practices, at the foot of Rolly Massimino, going to basketball camp. I remember when Jay Wright was the hot new assistant, and he started to basically run Rolly Massimino Rolly's basketball camp when my mom worked there, and then, of course, got to know Jay. Jay was like a 20-something-year-old dude living with one of my mentors, this dude, Craig Miller. They were both like young guys. Craig was a sports information director. I got to give the context because this stuff goes on YouTube, and people are like, who the hell is this guy? But that's why I love Villanova, okay? And I've always really appreciated and respected and thought Jalen Brunson was really, really good. And but I guess it's the size thing, and I guess I'm kind of a bonehead like that. Like I'm all about like I'm like a bad NFL scout. Like, does he have the measurables? I still look at Jalen Brunson and I'm like, the Knicks are calling an isolation play for Jalen Brunson at the end of an NBA playoff game. Like, that's not going to fly in the face of the Boston Celtics. Well, maybe it will. If you watch the game last night, Brunson finished with 29 points, 5 of 9 from 3. Just an absolute machine. And as clutch as they come. And the one, I thought, and I'm not just saying this to like weave this into the point I'm trying to make because it's very true. If you watch the game last night at the end of regulation, Brunson missed like a floater that would have won the Knicks the game. And it wasn't, the Knicks had made such a run at that point. And usually, college football fans know this, right? If you have a college football team that's on the road, and this goes back to the old rules before overtime, so I'm dating myself. But if you're on the road, or even now, if you don't want to go to overtime, right? And you're coming down the stretch and your team is like a 14-point underdog, and you've got a chance to win the game in regulation as opposed to take it to overtime. Let's say you call a 2-point conversion, and your team is like, hey, we're either going to win this now because we've got all the momentum and we're revved up, because we know if we go to overtime on the road against a team that was favored, our odds aren't great, right? So let's ride this tidal wave of momentum, and let's see if we can win the game here. Well, the Knicks weren't able to do that in a basketball sense last night because Brunson missed the teardrop in traffic at the end of the game. I did not think to myself, at least like the vibe check was like, not like, oh, now the Knicks are screwed. It wasn't like, oh, Jalen Brunson's a choke. It was like, oh, he missed the shot. They're going to go to overtime. And I felt like at that point in time, they still had a better chance to win than the Celtics did because they were just rolling. And OG Anunoby was unbelievable too. His ability to shoot the three and then make baskets inside. And the Celtics, the thing about the Celtics, and again, we'll talk to Cam more about this because if I'm being totally honest, I have a large body of work watching the NBA playoffs, but I'm not here to perpetrate like I'm some kind of expert on the Celtics or the Knicks. I know what I saw last night was an amazing NBA game, and it speaks so much to the fact that the NBA is a game of runs. And for New York to win that game last night, they had to put together a run, and they put together a furious one. They were down 20 in the third quarter, and you could basically have driven a nail into the coffin. I was like, yeah, like I told you, this is going to be a situation where we're going to be anointing the Celtics, maybe one of the best teams of all time, after this series and after this NBA Finals that, of course, they're going to win. Well, it didn't go that way. And the good news for folks that like the NBA is on two fronts last night, okay? One, you needed, if you're an NBA fan, you needed the Knicks to win last night, because if they did not win last night, they were toast, okay? They won that game. So by no means am I saying the Celtics are going to lose the series, but now we for sure have a series. I would imagine the Knicks will lose tomorrow night, and they'll go back to New York tied at 1 apiece, which that environment at the Garden, when is that game? Let's see. So the Knicks, I think, will play the Celtics. I'm skipping, right? So they'll play tomorrow night. They'll play at 6 o'clock our time, right? And then I think on Friday, not Friday, I guess they'll take it to Saturday. I don't know. Maybe they'll play. So they play Wednesday, and then they'll play Friday. Okay. Or Saturday, I'm sorry. So right now, the game on Wednesday, let's see what the spread is. Right now, so all right, Scotty, guess the line for tomorrow night. Knicks Celtics.
Celtics -6.
Celtics -10.5.
Go! Wow.
That's why I want to bring you in. Good golly, Miss Molly. And then the other one too, Oklahoma City by 11.5. Of course, last night, Denver, Aaron Gordon hits a huge three to win the game. I say, of course, like I watched it. I didn't. I was asleep. But the one thing I can say about the Nuggets is that, Mike Malone is fired less than a month ago. Rick Adelman's son takes over. He has now won more postseason games than he has regular season games. But the Nuggies seem to be rolling, and they did exactly what the Knicks needed to do, which was win game one. If you're going to win these series, you got to win game one. Go ahead.
Did you just call them the Nuggies?
Yeah.
I feel like Nuggies is appropriate for like chicken nuggets, but when we're talking about like a nugget of a fine mineral like gold, I'm not sure I would call them the nuggies.
All right, we'll go with nuggies or nuggets.
What if they were the Dino Nuggets, though? What if it was the Denver Dino Nuggets?
I would like that.
Hey, speaking of alliteration and branding and stuff, Bear the Truth's been over here trying to market you. He says you need your own line of pins.
Oh!
After your opening rant there, he says, he's laughing at Nugs, too. But first he said, Pundit Pete's Pins coming to a stadium near you.
Well, let me tell you something, okay? I like that. I was watching, so as I went to bed last night, I was watching a documentary because this is the stuff I do. I was watching Al Davis versus the NFL, right? And it's like the 30 for 30 where it's not you probably, if you were going to redo it, could do it a little better because what they did was they had two guys that I guess had amazing impressions of Al Davis and Pete Rozelle voice like a monologue, a running monologue from Pete Rozelle and Al Davis, kind of chronicling their dispute over many years. But the beautiful part of the whole thing is that they use all like the local news coverage from that time, and the Raiders are constantly trying to move, and Pete Rozelle's trying to stop them from moving, but Al Davis is claiming an antitrust. But one of the things that Pete Rozelle says is when the Washington Redskins named themselves the Fun Bunch, or they were named the Fun Bunch in 1983. They lost the Raiders in the Super Bowl. But Rozelle mentioned, like, a good nickname, right, will do so. He's like, this is Rozelle talking. As an old PR guy, I know that a good nickname can do wonders for a cause, a movement, an organization, a team, and apparently for a line of, according to Bear the Truth.
Local example, RG3.
When was that?
Just think about what that did for his brand, his image.
When was that created? Was that created here? I mean, do we know the sports writer who was it? Because RG3
it
played in Copper's Cove.
It definitely happened at Baylor.
Not far from Austin.
I don't
or
remember
Waco.
hearing him called RG3 before Baylor. Mm-hmm. But also, I was in high school, so I wasn't following it super closely.
Okay.
Bear the Truth, if you know that, or Scotty B, if you know when RG3 got the moniker RG3. It was early at Baylor, though. I mean, it was probably during his freshman year.
One of the biggest ones, I mean, when you think Texas, is Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yes.
Phi Slamma Jamma, a sports writer, who I forget who it was, but somebody from, I think, the Chronicle called them Phi Slamma Jamma during, 82, 83. Yeah, so good. I famously renamed the Amarillo assassin the Armadillo assassin this year.
So funny.
Brendan Hassan, a guy from Amarillo, I called him the Armadillo assassin when he hit a three for Kansas State against Arizona State.
I saw an armadillo last night.
Did you really?
Got to keep him away from that.
Was it on the street,
on
flat?
the side of the road.
Yeah.
No, it was hanging out. It was running around.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not for long, homie. I can promise you that. As a guy who likes to jog once in a while, those guys are a lot of roadkill, man, especially when I lived in Northeast Louisiana. You go for a jog, and there would be an armadillo, like a stain on the road. And, in a place like rural Northeast Louisiana, they weren't cleaning that anytime soon. So I remember this one armadillo corpse I ran around or by for like 6 months and spring into the summer once, jogging around Monroe. All right, so NBA table is set. We got, as fans, bottom line is this. We got what we needed last night. We got what we needed. These series are looking to be pretty exciting when you think, too, that Cleveland lost to Indiana. Cleveland's favored in that series. So that's exciting, too, because now we have a game 2 where another underdog is up 1-0.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's good because the narrative of round 1 was mostly like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
I mean, someone in this room made a comment about Caitlin Clark being more exciting to watch than Jalen Brunson, and I think Brunson had something to say about that last night.
Look, I stand by that, and
I don't blame you for the take. I'm just laughing.
By the way, here's a little inside baseball. So we do this stuff here, and I went on a little bit, a Caitlin Clark appreciation, and I did talk about it, and I still feel this way. Like, as an individual player, yes, that game last night was amazing, and it was electric. But I still am more excited individually about Caitlin Clark as a player than I am to watch Jalen Brunson.
I'm with you. I'm just laughing.
Yeah.
The round 1 narrative around the playoffs was, it's so boring.
But let's take you inside, and this is very real. So yesterday they take the clips, and just so you know, we do the clips. It's not like we have a team around here, okay? We are the team, Scotty and I. So I put up a short yesterday of Caitlin Clark, and a lot of times the AI-generated titles will not be what you said, but they want to be jarring, and I want people to watch it. And so as somebody who's like, I don't know, I think I have some integrity, I'm always like, oh, like, is that like a little extra? Because I'll put like exclamation points. Like, go ahead and look up my buddy Drake Toll if you want to see like a master class on hyperbole and titles for what he does with Locked On 12, right? Yeah, Locked On Big 12. Drake does a great job, but he certainly, you know, they used to say like a great columnist in the New York Post, like the idea is you want to grab somebody on the subway by the lapels and hold them up against the subway car and basically be like, read this now. You know what I mean? Like that's what the New York Post would do with their headline. So when the old school thought is when you're flipping through the paper and you see a headline, you're like, what are you laughing at? You can tell me in a second, all right? So it's like, read this now. So basically the title that came up for the Opus clip, Opus is once you cut the clips and they generate it, right? And those are the ones you see on YouTube. It said, Caitlin Clark more exciting than the NBA playoffs. So I was like, you know what? I'll roll with it. We'll see what happens. But that's not, I mean, you can go back and watch it. That is not what I said at all. But here I am posting the clip. It's not like I can get mad at Opus. At any time I could change it, which, by the way, after those 2 games last night, I did this morning. I was like, I did not say she was more exciting than the NBA playoffs. Last night proved that, and I want to be very clear about what I said so there's not something floating around on the interweb that has bad information. What were you laughing about, Scotty? What do you got over there? Now, come on, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I want you to do it. Why? Is it bad words? No, I can't do it. Why not? Move on. I would like you to do it. Go ahead. All right, Scotty, I appreciate you as a strong producer. All right, so we do want to come back. We got Camp Stewart coming up in segment 3. We are going to come back and we're going to break down the Big 12. Yesterday, Joel Klatt, one of the best football analysts in the country. By the way, sober guy. I've reached out to him to try to get him on the Payoff podcast to no avail. But I am going to work on it. Joel Klatt has done. Oh, of course, yeah. We could get him, I'm sure, at some point. But Steve Sarkisian is also sober, and Sark and Klatt were doing an interview last year. It was ramping up to a Texas football game on Fox where Klatt was the analyst, and they talked about sobriety, and it just made me want to get out of my chair. I was so pumped. And I'll give you one more great story about sobriety while we're talking sports. So yesterday, long day over here at Rogue. I was back at home preparing for the Big 12 tournament stuff. And I was like, let me see if I can take a quick cat nap, you know? So I put on what I do. I put on ESPN, like old school, like documentary. And it was Saturdays in the South. And it's about the SEC. It's so well done. But Bear Bryant, Jeremiah Castillo was a defensive back that played for Alabama. And Castillo was from, I forget where he was from, but he had just a horrible family experience. Castillo's dad was in and out of jail, and his mom was like fall down drunk, right? Like to the point where he's got a scar on his arm that his mom hit him with a knife, and it was like so awful. So when he was going to sign his letter of intent to go to Alabama, he literally called the school and was like, my dad is in jail. And this are Castillo's words. He was subsequently drafted by the Bucs and played for the Broncos in a couple Super Bowls. But Castillo's words were, I called up the school and was like, we can't sign this letter of intent here. Like, my mom is wasted and my dad's in jail. So they signed it somewhere else. He says he gets to Alabama, plays for Bear Bryant. As a kid, he starts at 18. His last game is I think, Liberty Bowl in 1982 or 83. Bear Bryant's last game ever, okay? And they win the game. Castillo has 3 picks, and he gets drafted by the Bucs. And he says he went from a boy to a man thanks to Bear Bryant. He was like a father figure to him, and Bear was very quick to say it's because of guys like Jeremiah Castillo. This is after that Liberty Bowl that I ride out into the sunset, an amazing, legendary coach. Castillo gets drafted by the Bucs, and as he's doing this documentary, he talks about the first thing I did with this money was I put my mom in a rehab. The first thing I did with my first NFL check. And he said, and that's because of Bear Bryant. And he said, and just this past summer, we celebrated 33 years of sobriety for my mom. And I was like, and then it was like, no chance at a nap because I was too revved up because of the great story. I am here all day long for stories like that. I got a little emotional there as somebody who's been on that journey. And yeah, I just love stuff like that. So anyways, we got more coming on the other side of the break, maybe some more old school stories. You can tell we're shot out of a cannon this morning, and I hope you're enjoying the cannonball run with us. Cam Stewart coming up in the third segment, excuse me.
3 hours.
He's got places to go. But before that, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Joel Klatt and his Big 12 college football rankings way too early. We're going to tell you who is atop of that list. Maybe a surprise for some, not necessarily for us around here. We'll talk about that next on the Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacics.
Dive into adventure with Scuba.com, your ultimate destination for top-tier scuba and snorkeling gear. With over 20 years of experience, our expert staff, who've dived everywhere from the Galapagos to the Maldives, provides personalized advice to help you find the perfect gear for any underwater journey. Shop leading brands like GoPro, Aqualung, and Scuba Pro. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, trust Scuba.com for the best in diving equipment and expert guidance. Explore now at Scuba.com. That's SCUBA.com. Scuba.com. At Fullwell, we bring together the expertise of registered dietitians, MDs, and OBGYNs to give you the best fertility support. Our research-backed bioavailable formulas are crafted with your health in mind, ensuring the highest quality and safety. From preconception to pregnancy and beyond, we exceed industry standards with independent testing for harmful contaminants. With our comprehensive practitioner directory, personalized care is always within reach. Fullwell, your trusted partner on your fertility journey. Visit us at fullwellfertility.com. Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. We put every machine through 6,000 rigorous tests to guarantee long-lasting performance. With cutting-edge technology and a commitment to energy efficiency, Gevi makes your life easier, greener, and more convenient. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at gevi.com to discover more. That's gevi.com.
With San, owning iconic furniture no longer requires paying a premium. We use the finest materials like Italian top-grain leather, known for its durability and luxurious feel, and apply meticulous attention to detail in every piece we create. Our replicas are crafted with the same care and precision as the originals, but a price that makes them accessible. With over 15,000 satisfied customers worldwide, we've proven that high-quality furniture doesn't have to come with a high price tag. Explore our collection today at san.com.
At Covers & All, we've revolutionized protective solutions with cutting-edge, customizable covers, tarps, and curtains. Using advanced tech fabrics that are 100% waterproof, UV tear, and abrasion resistant, we ensure lasting durability with hand-sewn double-stitch seams. Our commitment to quality, precision engineering, and customizable options is unmatched. With vertically integrated operations and express shipping, we deliver premier protection at affordable prices. Visit coversandall.com today for the perfect fit, guaranteed to last.
At Open Goal USA, we're revolutionizing training for both soccer and lacrosse with our innovative portable rebounders. Perfect for players of all ages and skill levels, our rebounders improve accuracy, control, and technique in both sports. Built with premium materials for durability and ease of use, they're ideal for training anywhere, anytime. Whether you're perfecting your soccer game or sharpening your lacrosse skills, Open Goal USA has you covered. Visit OpenGoAAALUSA.com and elevate your training today.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious. Find your blend at hempdelicious.com.
Introducing Muck-Off's classic pink bike cleaner, powered by revolutionary nanotechnology that breaks down dirt and grime on a microscopic level while protecting your bike's delicate finish. Developed by our mad developer Alex and tested by riders, our products are made by riders for riders. Discover more at us.muc-off.com, where we break the mold to bring you the best in bike care.
Get paid faster with Bill. the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com.
The Pete Sousa Show rolls on. It is time to get into some Big 12 football and also some Big 12 news and notes. Scotty hit me with this yesterday afternoon. Now it is the time. Spring ball's done. Whether these teams had a game or whether they didn't, it's wrapped up, right, Scotty? All over the country. Yeah, it's done pretty much. Most of these teams, talking to these Big 12 softball coaches yesterday, most of the schools are in finals right now or preparing for finals. Some of them have different, I think, like trimesters, so it's hard to keep track. But spring football has wound down, and there's a lot of stories, right, on the back end of that. And one of the stories or stories all over the country are, high-profile analysts who know what they're talking about, not me, but guys like Joel Klatt and Scotty Swingler breaking down – that's right, Scotty, that's you – breaking down their top players in the NFL, their top teams in the Big 12. So you hit me with Klatt's list yesterday. I'm curious as to, okay, here it is. Here's his top 25. Okay, so the number one Big 12 team is BYU at
Correct.
14. And then 15 is Arizona State. Wow, look at this. There's a wave.
So here's what he said, and this is where
Baylor at 24, baby.
Where I would want to push back on Joel, and I think he's one of the best in the game, by the way.
Oh, there's no question.
I think he is just A++ in terms of analyst. I was thrilled he had Baylor in the top 25 because that tells me he pays attention. Because I think the normal national coverage guy is just not. I think they're overlooking Baylor mostly.
I agree.
But then when he got to these other 4 Big 12 teams, he said, and I agree with him mostly, he said, the Big 12 is going to be very competitive. There's a lot of really good teams in the Big 12. I'm not sure there is a great team at this point in the Big 12. I think all that's fair. So then he goes, so I just tried to rank my Big 12 teams, and then I clumped them all together here in the middle because that's about where I think they'll be. But I want to know why Baylor wasn't part of that cluster. I want to know what to him separates Baylor from those other 4. And maybe it's just those other 4. I mean, they don't return more. Like Baylor returns all of its production on offense for the most part. So I'm curious why I think he rightfully acknowledged the Big 12's competitive, good, not great. We don't know who number 1's going to be. We don't know how high the best team's going to be.
Is it 20, by the way, goddamn, is 25, that's Oklahoma, right? That's not Utah.
Correct.
Yeah. Houston, Oklahoma, and Utah. Try figuring out those 3 logos real quick on the fly at a glance.
That's a great point.
It's tough. Okay.
No, that's Oklahoma. I think they're betting big on that quarterback. Bear the Truth says A&M, really? Tale as old as time, Bear the Truth. Tale as old as time. Everyone, every year, thinks A&M's going to be something, and then they nothing. I say that. They were like 1 game out of the SEC championship
Yeah, I mean,
last
come
year.
on, Scott.
Like, they were pretty good last year.
Yeah. So 24 for Baylor. I think BYU, honestly, I think if you want to say one team is maybe a little overrated, I would possibly say BYU. And here's why. Hang in there with me. BYU last year won a lot of football games. There was a lot of really good juju around that program.
They won a lot of close games.
I mean, dude, a lot of close games. And, Jake Retzloff was a huge part of that.
And he's back.
Yeah, he is back, and with him comes that magical aura and that ball bouncing your way type feel that we saw last year, right? I mean, there's something special, or this is what I want to say. Something special was going on last year around BYU football. Now, they failed to capitalize on it down the stretch because, let's face it, going wire to wire in the Big 12 is very difficult.
It's tough.
Yeah, but BYU was having a straight magical year, right, last season. And a lot of that had to do, and I really believe this, and we've talked about it here ad nauseum, but my experience covering football and being around football teams and on football teams, when the ball bounces your way early in the year, something starts to happen with your confidence, and it's great.
Yeah.
And it almost it never supersedes the ability or the talent, but it certainly can play a role, right? That confidence, that enthusiasm, that mojo.
I mean, we saw it happen in reverse for Baylor.
Yes.
When they got on that 6-game run.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is Provo and BYU fans all over the country, they really get behind their Cougars. So like when this team starts to win, they really, really get hot, and there is something that just builds. And again, we mentioned it's like a tidal wave that follows this team. They are going to have to experience success early next season, right, to find that rhythm again. Let me call up their schedule real quick.
Scotty B says the schedule for BYU is tougher this season, and they won 4 one-possession games last year. To kind of speak to that.
And I actually did know that, and so that's tough, man. And you know, Jake Retzloff had an amazing year too, right? So can he match that? Because the Big 12 has only gotten better in the offseason.
Right.
So it's
like most of these teams are going to improve.
Yeah, they will.
Utah's not going to stay down.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, so actually, okay, let's check out BYU's schedule. Portland State win. Okay.
Yep.
Versus Stanford. Pretty cool too when you look at the Bachmeier bros who just came to BYU from Stanford. That game will be in Provo as well. By the way, huge get for the BYU football program to get Tiger and Bear. Bachmeier. Tiger's the quarterback and Bear is the wide receiver.
Sounds like a Disney animated movie.
Tiger is the wide receiver and Bear's the quarterback. But Tiger's amazing. Like I watched Stanford play a bunch of times last year. He's like a do-it-all wide receiver. I mean, I can't imagine. He is tailor-made for BYU, right? And he can also return kicks. And the younger brother, Bear, is a quarterback. I think Notre Dame, Oregon. He turned down offers from programs like that to commit to Stanford. And he's an incoming freshman, so he flipped his commitment. And there's another dude too. I think there's a Brock, but he's another a Brock Bachmeier. But I think he's like he's still in grade
That's
school.
a word salad. Brock Bachmeier.
Yeah,
I would mess that up.
It is. But so BYU's got a lot to be excited about. And early on, their schedule is actually pretty forgiving because their toughest game early. Of course, you could say Stanford at home is difficult, but I think a bit of a trap could be going on the road to play in Greenville, North Carolina.
Guess who said that 3 minutes ago?
Who?
Scotty B.
He did. Yeah, that's a tough game. That East Carolina game is tough. And then right after that, you've got to go play at Boulder. And I don't really know. You see Joel Klatt, too. That's something, too, you can mention right now is you don't see Colorado there in that top 25.
Well, they lost a lot.
Yeah, they did lose a lot.
And I told you last week how much I believe in Caden Salter, but they are a question mark. Here's my question. So you could argue BYU is overrated, but I think they belong in this top 25 without question, okay? How are we putting Kansas State in this top 25? Can you explain that one to me?
No, I can't.
I think they were the most disappointing team in league play last year, as far as expectations versus what happened.
Well, let me take you inside baseball there. There was something going on with Chris Kleiman, and it was, and this is not I'm not talking out of school here, but there was personal stuff going on around his family.
I remember reading about.
Yeah, it wasn't, and the way he put it wasn't in his house, but it was something very close to his house, that was really affecting him. And I know that their offensive coordinator was their O-line coach, right? And so he went from being the O-line coach on the field to going up to the booth, and that sort of affected the way that their offensive line played. So you had that, and I think that O-coordinator actually took another job somewhere. But that led to a lack of maybe synergy on the field up front, definitely a lot of change. And the personal stuff for Kleiman made for a total uphill battle last year for Kansas State. And I think that you're doing it again, you take a dump on Avery Johnson, and I think I don't think it's warranted, Scotty.
Overrated.
I don't believe he is. He was a true freshman last year, and his ability to make defenses look pedestrian because they play on their heels against him.
But it's not, again, I'm not taking a dump on him. He wasn't in your top 5 Big 12 quarterbacks last week either. Or number 6, you said.
Well, we also
So at best,
that was a flawed list.
So at
That was a
best,
flawed list.
so at best, in your opinion, he's 7th in the conference, and I'd put him probably about 10th.
Okay, but let's look. Okay, here's one thing, and you mentioned the quarterbacks, and we do want to talk about Brett Yormark and his extension with the Big 12 as the celebration continues with the Big 12. But okay, so look at those Big 12 schools: BYU, Jake Retzloff,
Yep.
right? Arizona State, Sam
Leavitt.
Leavitt. Avery Johnson with Kansas State, Rocco Beck with Iowa State. Look, man, quarterback play rules the day, and you look right there. That's concrete evidence from last year that these teams will have.
But
going into the season, at least, strong quarterback play. I think it's going to be tough.
But that's
for
why
Retzloff to rise to the occasion once again.
If it's about the combination of quarterback play and what you showed on tape last season, there's no reason Baylor's 24 and Kansas State's 16.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's
Baylor has the best. Cam says I'm cooking you. Baylor has the best quarterback in the conference.
Okay, here's the one thing I'll say. That is up for debate. I was actually pissed when I saw our boy McShay's first round. There wasn't one guy from the Big 12 in the first round for McShay's 2026 first round NFL draft.
Yeah, that won't last.
Mock draft. No, it won't. And I was a little disappointed not to see Sawyer on there, especially because I voiced to him and expressed to him how good Sawyer is. Not that that means a lot to him.
The Cam Show comments, Avery Johnson isn't even the best Avery Johnson. And I agree with him.
Yeah, he is, dude. Right now he is. I mean, hey, dude, remember now, the Mavs were cooking with Avery in 2006, 2007.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, but
that's the real Avery Johnson.
That was damn near 20 years ago. All right, so I do want to talk, and Cam is hang in there, Cam. We'll get to you in a second there. He's like a WWE tag team partner, like pacing outside the ring, right, waiting to get tagged in. Just settle down, dude. We'll get to you. We do want to talk Brett Yormark, and I think it is worthy of a celebration. It was announced this morning that he re-signed with the Big 12. I'll give you we'll get official here for 1 second because we just got the news broke early this morning, but it just came into the inbox. This is from the Big 12. Today, Big 12 Board Chair and Baylor President Linda Livingstone announced that Big 12 Board of Directors has voted to extend Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark's contract for an additional 3 years through the 2029-2030 academic year. Commissioner Yormark was named the Big 12's 5th commissioner on June 29, 2022, and officially began his tenure on August 1st. Let me read this just because it's Linda Livingstone. On behalf of the Big 12 Board of Governors or Board of Directors, we are pleased to extend Commissioner Brett Yormark's contract an additional 3 years past the remaining 2 years of the existing agreement. Since Brett took leadership of the Big 12 3 years ago, he has been instrumental in guiding the Big 12's expansion to include new member schools and unifying the conference's existing members. Brett's strategic thinking and creative initiatives have been vital to the Big 12's success, and we look forward to building on this momentum in the years ahead. Okay, that's from Chair Linda Livingstone. When I worked in the NBA, Brett Yormark was with the Nets at the time, and he was part of, the transition to Brooklyn. And it was very clear to everybody in the NBA that the guy, kind of like whatever he was touching was getting that golden feel, and we were lucky enough here in Big 12 country to witness that and experience it ourselves. I mentioned this to Scotty because I want to get, as a lifelong Big 12 guy, pretty much, right? I mean, Southwest Conference, but Scotty, you don't even remember that, right? Yeah, so when Brett Mark took over in June of 2022, I want you to remember now, Texas and OU had just announced they were leaving the conference, okay? And Yormark would say, look, he inherited Colorado coming back, so that was not his doing. Colorado was already coming back. But Arizona State, BYU, that's him. So Utah, right? So Scotty, how important was this transition of power from Bob Bowlesby to Brett Yormark?
I don't think we can actually put it into words at this time.
Yeah.
Bob Bowlesby being one of the most incompetent and spineless commissioners of any league I've ever seen, making several decisions very detrimental to the conference throughout his tenure. Yormark, I mean, I just, if we think about from 22 to now, Think about what happened to the Pac-12. Think about the state of the ACC at the moment.
Yeah.
I think the Big 12 has pretty securely, if you're paying attention, established itself firmly as the top of the heap, just behind the SEC and the Big Ten.
And Yormark got it.
It's a credit to him. Exactly. It's a credit to him for nabbing those Pac-12 schools.
And nabbing the TV deals because if you remember the Pac-12, I forget their commissioner at the time, but they were basically like, turning their nose up at certain television deals that were provided to them or opportunities that were provided by television networks. And in doing so, they lost opportunities. And once Yormark came on the scene, he snatched those opportunities and continued with the presence of the Big 12 in living rooms all across the country.
Bingo. And he's done an outstanding job. And, I don't think he's done. Like, I think he's talked about it enough. And, like, frankly, the Big 12 has also established itself as the premier basketball conference in the country for the last 5 years. And so I just think he's aware enough, and I think the landscape is still going to shift. I think there's some smoke to this Clemson and Florida State coming over. Could that be the death of the ACC? Dude, I think he's the first guy who would make that he is a leader who I trust to make that happen if it's possible. Whereas if Bowlesby were still in charge, we might be down to like Baylor and TCU.
I think if Bowlesby was still in he flat out
we'd be screwed, bro.
And I said this to him. We did an interview with him. It was Baylor and who the heck were they playing? Baylor's playing BYU. This was 2 years ago, basketball, and we interviewed him at halftime, me and Spatola. And afterwards, I just said, "Yo, man, thanks for saving the conference."
Real.
And
real.
he flat out did. I didn't say "yo, man," by the way. I said "commissioner."
But I don't think he's done. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a ACC collapse and it's Clemson, Florida State, Duke, North Carolina. Like, let's go.
Check this out. We had a chance to talk with Commissioner Yormark. This is a few months ago, but this is on Inside the 12. And just read the tea leaves here. To what you're saying, Scotty. I don't think they are done. Let's take a listen. I know you like to live in the moment, right? It's like next game up. But when you take a look back and take a macro view of what's happened to this conference since you took over, right? The expansion, all the different time zones the Big 12 is in, basketball, football, perennial powers. Do you sit back and think, wow, we have made a difference here? This conference is elite. And there was a time where people weren't sure if that was going to be the case.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will tell you that I often say to my colleagues, be happy, but never satisfied. And I live by that mantra. And I am happy. If you think about what we've done the last 25 months, we've done a lot to transform this conference and to give our fans a lot to cheer for. But we're not done yet. I mean, there's so much more work to be done. And, I often look at us as a bit of a mature startup. We're in our 29th season. And when you compare that to some of the legacy conference, we truly are just getting started. And I'm excited about our future. I think we've set up our future in all the right ways. We've got a long-term deal with ESPN and Fox. They're great partners. They're elevating our schools and our narrative. You said earlier, expansion has led to across the ecosystem for us to get better. Football, we got deeper. Basketball, men's and women's, we got better. And our Olympic sports are starting to really thrive. So very excited about our future, excited about our 16 schools. And for our fans, they should be very bullish on our future.
And one more thing, we're about to bring Cam Stewart in, and we'll switch topics. But I want to say one more thing that Scotty and I were talking about before the show, which actually, I'm trying to get to the bottom of. This is, again, behind the curtain. So part of Yormark's genius, when the NBA announced that it was no longer going to be on Turner, be on TNT, part of the agreement there, somehow, because Brett Yormark is so brilliant, was that Turner was going to receive college sports to put on their airwaves, football and college basketball. And to my understanding, Yormark saw to it that the Big 12 would be those college or that conference whose sports, football and basketball primarily, would air on TNT. So what you're going to have this year is, and hang on to your seat for this one, it's quite possible, and it's all still being fleshed out. So I don't have any inside track on this, but I've talked to some people in the know about the possibility of, instead of having, God forbid, but Pete Sousa and Corey Williams calling your Arizona State Baylor game next year on ESPN Plus, you might have Spiro Ditas and Stan Van Gundy doing that game on TNT, which I'm sure I know that I may not be happy about, but you probably are at home. And also it'll just be for, I think, about 15 basketball games and maybe a little less football. You get my point. But so that's all Commissioner Yormark. Like, you know, the NBA leaves TNT, but the Big 12 shows up. That ain't bad. You know, even if worst case scenario, best case scenario for me, they actually kind of sub-license it, right? So Turner airs the ESPN broadcast basically on TNT or TBS or True TV or whatever, much like they did the college football playoff, and it still is me and Corey Williams. It'll be much easier to find for everybody else. So that's cool. What else is cool is Cam Stewart. Let's bring in Cameron right now. He's home. He's in Chicago.
The home base.
Hey, Cam, give us a couple words on Commissioner Yormark. What he's done for the Big 12 on your watch. You know, what you think the progress has been like.
Yeah, man. I mean, he saved our butts. I think there was even some more context to put in there. 3 years ago now, I guess, maybe 4. We thought this conference was done. We were begging for a chance for Baylor to get in the Pac-12 and for them to look past the religious standards of our great university. But it's come 3 years later, 4 years later, and we're in a pretty good spot with Brett Yormark. I will say that. So I'm in for a couple more years. We'll see how much more they get to expand, but I think we're in a good spot.
Look at you, Cam. It's great to see you, by the way.
Hey, it's great to see you too, Pete.
Cam
good to be
can't
back.
He's not like, he doesn't have that emotional gear to be like excited to see me, but I think he is.
It's a quiet excitement.
If he says it out loud, he's excited.
That's actually a really good way to put it. Yeah. Most of my stuff is internalized. So yes, Pete, I'm happy. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get to do a live report from Churchill Downs for the
I didn't know you were
show.
there.
It's an easy excuse to just not know that I was there, but maybe next time.
Next time, have your publicist
Nick did a great job.
Let us know, okay? Yeah, Nick did do a really good job. All right, let's talk about the Celtics. I said at the beginning of the show, you're going to
Yeah, go ahead.
At the beginning of the show, so last night I'm watching the game, and Celtics are up 20, and it looks like this is going to just be a complete annihilation, not only in game 1, but for the remainder of the series. And I'm thinking, well, that's so great. I get Cam on tomorrow. I think we can start talking about, will this Celtics team now climb its way into the annals of NBA history, right? Like, really, because they went to the finals, 3 years ago. Then they won the championship last year, and now they're going to win again, right? That's where my mind was going, and they're going to do it in a real convincing fashion. And now here we are down 1-0 thinking, wow. Jay Williams, by the way, on Get Up this morning was like, this would be the greatest implosion in Celtics history.
Shut up. God, they want them to win. They want the Knicks so bad. Pete, I think this is your angle into the ESPN world past the play-by-play broadcasting. You're a big Knicks fan as well. I think this would be a great way for you to angle it in. I mean, look, the Celtics have a long and storied history. They've probably had worse collapses. If they get swept by the Knicks, that would be completely inexcusable. That would be pretty awful. But this is one of the great. It was game 1. Like, I'm pissed. Okay, I'm really bugged out from this, but it is game 1. Jay Williams. I want to touch on some of your one of your points in there though, Pete. I talked about this on my show yesterday. If the Celtics do win again and they go back to back, especially if they beat Oklahoma City to do it, which you think they probably have to, even though Oklahoma City lost last night as well. I think we would look back on this team as a dynasty in like 10 years. Now, hear me out. Because for me, you've got to win 3 to be a dynasty. Like, that's a non-negotiable. Okay. Back-to-backs are great. The Rockets, that's still something to be lauded, but it's not a dynasty. But I think now with the second apron, the way that we see kind of the free agency salary cap working in the NFL for the last 20, 25 years, I think we are going to look back on a back-to-back champion differently 10 years from now. You'll say, man, the Celtics, they didn't win 3 out of 5, but they won back-to-back fairly convincingly, and then they had to break their team up because that's what the second apron does. Yeah. So I do think that they will be looked back on even more favorably in 10 years or so if they win the second championship. But last night was a disaster class, man. 15 of 60 from 3-point. Like, how do you do that? How do you take 23 more threes than the other team and are -6 from beyond the arc? And I get so frustrated because I am a big-time Jason Tatum defender, and the only thing that I think he's not elite at is three-point shooting. And for him to take 4 threes in the last 2 minutes of the game, in regulation anyway, when the Celtics are absolutely crumbling, they get a last chance, like last shot opportunity. They've called a timeout, and they're drawing up a Jason Tatum 3 when Jalen Brunson's on him. He's got like 7 inches on Jalen Brunson, and he's one of the best in the world at getting to the friggin' basket, and he's taking a contested 3 on him as a 34% three-point shooter, whatever the hell he is. Like, I hate that. That's what I hate, man. And it sounds so old school, and I will go on a different kind of tirade in my show, so you won't miss it. But I know it's so old school to say, and it's kind of almost lazy to the point where you're like, well, at some point you don't hit threes. Why don't you just get to the basket? Like, they should have, man. They've got Tatum, who has just developed so great as a finisher in the last couple of years. Jaylen Brown is unstoppable at getting, downhill to the basket. Drew Holiday can finish amongst anybody in the paint. And yet it's just 3 after 3 after 3. And it was so frustrating to watch, man. I mean, credit to the Knicks for coming back, no doubt. But the Celtics just kept giving them the ball, man. Just kept taking low percentage shots.
And you saw late in the game, by the way, Reggie Miller did a nice job pointing it out, how wide open Drew Holiday was just cutting to the basket because the Knicks were so focused, right, on stopping the 3. I think early in the game they were sort of baiting them into it, but then late in the game, Cam, you all right? Look, he muted for us.
That went down the wrong pipe.
All right, take your time.
Keep talking. Just keep talking.
No, but bring him back, please. I want to be able to at least see my buddy.
How else would you know that I'm alive again?
No, so they finally started to take some of those opportunities down the stretch. The one thing, because I was rooting for the Knicks, that was really impressive about the Celtics was their ability to get offensive rebounds and continue to give themselves second shots, second chance opportunities down the stretch. I want to ask you as a Celtics fan, because it has to be frustrating, Jalen Brunson. Like, I don't, I'm a fan, but I still am, every time I watch him, I don't have the, I guess, elite respect for him. I maybe should have, because every time I watch him play, again, I'm like, man, this guy is better than I thought. I think I get so stuck on his size maybe, and maybe the fact that he's not so scintillating to watch down the stretch, but he does get it done. As an opposing fan, are you very fearful of Jalen Brunson? Is he someone who you're like, he has the ball late, oh no, or what?
I mean, kind of. I mean, I think he's a top 10 player in the league, so you got to be somewhat fearful of him, right? But what is the silver lining for kind of this Twitter age of NBA fandom is the fact that, yeah, Jason Tatum missed some shots down the stretch, but Jalen Brunson missed a layup to win the game. A layup. Like, I don't know how he missed that. And so there's no grand discussion of, oh, wow, Jason Tatum wishes he was Jalen Brunson kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, he's a good player. And I think the thing that really worries me in a crunch time situation is it's almost not even in your defender's hands anymore. The guy is so expert at getting to the free throw line that it then becomes, and there's some real, this is a really smart thing to do in a lot of situations. You kind of put it in the ref's hands, and I mean, Harden did that for years. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does it in Oklahoma City. It's frustrating as holy hell to watch. But that's where my main point of frustration comes from. Jalen Brunson, terrific player. Not as good as Tatum overall, but Good player, man. And
how do you feel about the Celtics for the rest of the season? I mean, rest of the series. Are you kind of like, because a lot of times these teams will lose a game one. You know what I mean? It happens. And then they go back and they win 4 in a row. You know?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they hit like 7 out of 30 wide open catch and shoot threes, I think is going to give me some confidence that they won't do that again. But what I hate in the playoffs is like, I do go to that well of like, well, that's your one game that's going to happen. It's like, well, maybe. You know, I mean, the Rockets did that 0 for 27 from 3 in a game 7 a couple years ago, and you can't just piss away games in the playoffs. Like that's where I'm like, that's where you lose me. In the regular season, you're like, oh yeah, okay, they had back-to-back bad shooting games. They'll probably hit 40 tonight. You know, but in the playoffs, it's like, yeah, hopefully, but you're going to leave that to chance. You're just going to throw a game away. You're just going to punt a game 1 on your home court in the playoffs. And that's what it felt like the Celtics were doing. They didn't adjust at all in the second half. Tatum and Brown did not shoot the ball well at all in the second half. They didn't hunt mismatches. And while I think the Celtics have great role players, if you're going to make this a role player series, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Like you look at the 2 stars of the team, of each team, Tatum is better than Brunson and Brown is better than Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know how much you can flip-flop that. I don't know that Brown's better than Jalen Brunson, but you've got the superstar advantage on any given night. And so when you're making it a role player series, when your stars aren't going to show up in the second half of a game, you're leaving yourself very vulnerable. You know, there is only so much that Derek White can do, that Drew Holiday can do. And Kristaps Porzingis, the limit on him doing anything is apparently 0. He gives you absolutely nothing.
What's going on with him? Do you have any information on like what this illness is or what's happening?
I have no idea. And we didn't get any word of what it really was in February, where he missed like 2 weeks. And it was just, viral illness. And he has sucked in this postseason. He's been a big-time liability for them, and he leaves the game late first half, early second half, and just doesn't come back into it. And again, it's an illness thing.
Dude, you don't want to speculate either because that's another word for guessing, but like it could be something serious. Like it could be like when you...
Could be. I mean, the guy's always hurt. It's usually something.
But when they say viral, like, and you're like constantly battling fatigue, it's like, you know, that could be a big deal. I have no idea, but that could be a bigger deal. It's not like when I was working in the NBA and Melvin Ely went to a strip club the night before and was out with flu-like symptoms the next day. You know, that was a little different. But
maybe he just does that all the time. Maybe he just did it for like 2 straight weeks in February.
That was always the best, though. You know that this guy was hungover and he'd skip shoot around and just be in the training room, and then you'd see he was out with flu-like symptoms. I was like, wow, he's really taking this all the way to the finish line. You know,
Sunday matinee in New York.
Forget about it. All right, I want to tip my cap to you. You said, I think 2 weeks ago, that Bill Belichick, we would not like Jordan Hudson would be moved out of the equation, and it seems like, you know, I know from my own story in recovery, like you really got to bottom out if you're going to make a change. Mm-hmm. And that CBS Sunday morning interview was I hope a rock bottom, and it seems like there's going to be some changes made. What do you know about that? What are your thoughts about that and all your experience rooting for, paying attention to, covering Bill Belichick?
It's first off, it's just really odd. And we did some segments about it on the Cam show last week, and all the comments were, why is this weird? This isn't illegal. I'm like, I'm fully aware that it's not illegal. But it is really freaking weird, man. I mean, how can we deny that? And yeah, personally, like Bill Belichick is legitimately one of my heroes. Like I live my life in a way that he coached a football team for 20 years, you know? So, and this is so off the deep end, bizarro. And I said I said to you, like, it has to end because this is the only football bill we know is the complete opposite of this, right? The complete elimination of distractions. Like, I just don't know I think Belichick can be like this as a celebrity. I don't think Belichick can be like this as a football coach. And the fact that we got those leaks from North Carolina last week of like, hey, we're really concerned about this. UNC is really concerned about Jordan Hudson. Like, we know from being in workplaces, that means that's a big time discussion within the walls. If that's already leaking out, like after that interview, that's not BS, right? Like that is legitimate concern from North Carolina of like, maybe we bit off more than we can chew here. This might be a monster that we don't want to deal with. Just this whole thing.
By the way, you and I talked about this a lot this summer, but it's like it's very clear that this is the reason why NFL teams didn't hire him. That's my thought on it.
Yeah.
That is my because it's always like, what is the deal? What is the deal? You were trying to figure out what the red herring was. Why is this that he's not getting hired by NFL teams? And I think right now we've been hit over the head with the reason why NFL teams didn't hire him.
I mean, no doubt, man. And like, she's literally going to storm out and end an interview for CBS Sunday Morning. Like it's crazy. And by the way, like, you know, this being in kind of the journalism field, right, for a long time, it's like, yeah, in a normal situation, that's a weird question to ask somebody and pester them about. How did they meet? But when you're a public figure of this stature and you're 50 years older than your girlfriend and nobody knows how you met, and by the way, the girlfriend is making everything public, right? The t-shirts and the Pilates on the beach and miking them up for every practice. That is not a totally unreasonable question to ask in an interview.
And by the way, this is not a 24-year-old girl dumping a drink on her boyfriend's head, storming out of the fours, being like, I'll be at the car. You know, like,
God,
this
I
is
love
like
the
way
fours,
bigger.
man.
You know what I mean? Like, we've all had like kind of nutty girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I'm curious as to like, do you think, and I know you got to go because you got a show, but one more question. Do you think in your experience in relationships and the way you know Bill Belichick, like, you know, you got to feel, right? Like at all in his head, you know, because you know when you're in a bad relationship and your boys are like, dude, you got to get out. Yeah. But in your head, you're like trying to like make sense of it.
Yeah,
like,
and you're making any excuse you can.
Yeah, I wonder if that spring practice, like when she's dressed up like that, he's in his head like, oh boy, like this is like I'm feeling pretty uncomfortable here. Let me just see if I can like.
Yeah, you're almost like frozen in time for a second. You're like,
yeah, and then like you know inside like. Because before any major decision is made, like a breakup or a big change, like it seems like he's doing, there is something in your head that's like, oh, man, this is bad. It's like they said, like when you're an alcoholic, you're the last to know. Like, same with him. Like, he was probably the last to know on this, right?
Yeah. I think of it like as a situation where you know either way you go, like either decision you make, you're just dealing with something you don't want to deal with. In the sense that, like, I don't think he wants to continue on with this media thing that they've got going. Like, yeah. I think he's bugged by it a lot, but I think also in his head, he's like, man, you know, I was fired last year from being the best coach in history. I mean, he won't admit it, but it was a firing. I've kind of crawled back to college, sold on this dream that she sold him on, I'm sure. And now it's like, if I break up with her, I'm only going to have to answer those questions all the time. And it's going to be tough internally, right? Of like, now I'm here at North Carolina on this dream sold to me by this person I found out was a whack job and is ruining my reputation. And now I got to deal with that too. Or the alternative is continuing to have my reputation ruined. Like it's a rock and a hard place here for old Billy B. But it is really odd. I thought of all these guys, Brady, Belichick, Kraft, that Brady was going to have the weirdest post-retirement. It's just writing on the wall, right? Like the TB12 stuff and the water that cures concussions and stuff like that. Like, in the Botox, it was always going to be weird. But I think Belichick has comfortably surpassed both of them in both weird post-dynasty.
Hold my beer moment.
Oh my God. Like, yeah. I cannot believe that we're at this spot when I kind of take a 10,000-foot view of it.
All right, well, look, Cam, we're at the spot where your show's got to start. So everybody march on over to the Cam show. Check him out. He's not just a friend of the show. We call him like the best friend of the show. Cam, you're the greatest, dude. I'll talk to you soon. Let me know. I'm going to the Big 12 today. But let me know if you want me to, be on the Cam show, okay?
I do want you to be on the Cam show at some point soon.
Okay. Thanks, Cam.
If that's okay with you.
It's great with me.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, Cam Stewart, there he is, folks. Pete Sousa Show. We're out of here. Make sure you join us tomorrow. We're talking with Jake Hatch from Locked On Cougars. And then, of course, I'll be at the Big 12. Scotty's got you covered for the rest of the week. I will be on the show with him, but he's going to be running point from here in the Alico building. We will check you tomorrow.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.